Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño and I hope you are having a magnificent day. It started out here in Atlanta, Georgia in the US with terrible rain this morning. I mean, I couldn't even go out and take the garbage out because it was a mess out there. I didn't want to get wet. But it's beautiful and sunny now, so what do you know? I hope it's sunny by you. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Let's get going. This is a Photo Philosophy Friday topic, and today's topic comes from a quote. It comes from a quote by Gerardo Suter, which says, "I didn't choose photography, photography chose me." Now, the right way to pronounce it is probably Gerardo. Gerardo was born in 1957 and still alive. He's from Argentina. So let's talk about this. This is really interesting. And you know, I was doing a little research for this and I was thinking about it and I got myself confused. That tells you a lot about me, right? And that's not hard to do. So I'm going to try to keep this, you know, really clear, not so much for you, but for me, okay? So photography isn't a living entity. We know this, right? So can photography choose anything for us? Well, photography is not going to choose, right? So I didn't choose photography, photography chose me. Well, let's analyze what Gerardo Suter might have meant from this, right? Obviously, photography, my camera didn't walk over, "Hey, Juan, I want you to pick up photography." That if that happens, then I'm either smoking the wrong stuff, maybe I'm smoking the right stuff, right? Or I'm taking too many pills or something. So, Alice in Wonderland, time to run the other direction and go find the white rabbit. So anyway, I digress. This quote really implies that there's another entity that chose photography for us, right? Some people call it God, and if you're afraid of calling things God, because some people are, you know, atheists, I respect that. Call it Mother Nature, call it the universe, call it source, call it light source, call it energy, call it whatever you want to call it, right? The point is that some other entity has chosen photography for us. And what does it mean that some entity has chosen photography for me? Well, it probably means that I was born with the gift, right? If, let's just assume that it's God, right? Has chosen this for me. Well, how does God choose it for me? Well, yeah, okay. God can just send it my way any day of the week and all of a sudden I have something I didn't have yesterday, right? If you believe in God, then you believe that can happen. If you believe in some kind of, you know, universal force, you can probably believe that that would happen. But most likely it means that you're born with this gift, right? And many times we don't know that we have a gift until we've tried something. Sometimes that doesn't even tell us because we try too young and we don't realize it because we don't show any interest or any passion, any desire. We pick it up later in life and then we give it a little more thought and realize, ooh, I really like this. And then you start realizing that you're good at it. So did you like it because you were good at it? Or did you become good at it because you like it? That's what we're going to analyze here. If in fact some source has chosen photography or a sport or any other art, you know, or skill for us, can we agree with Gerardo Suter? Or does this not make sense, right? I didn't choose photography. Photography was chosen for me, right? Actually, he said photography chose me. Well, I think if we're going along this path, then yeah, maybe we might agree with Gerardo, right? But I've seen the flip side of this too. There are people, and you've probably seen them online somewhere, that claim to have chosen a random skill or sport or talent and spent, you know, sometimes weeks, months, years practicing it until they just became masters at it. We've all heard, right, whether it's an interview with an athlete or some kind of documentary of an athlete, where they talk about how they didn't have a lot of money growing up. You know, they grabbed the ball, started spending day in and day out with this thing, nights, you know, weekends. I mean, just every minute of every day that they had extra, and just became the best at their game. So, you know, there's no doubt that somebody can do this. The question is always, did they have it in them already, or did they actually start from scratch? I've heard people say that they had zero skill, right? So if these people are in line, and I have no reason to believe they are, they have zero skill, and they take something and do it for a year, day in and day out, and become really good at it, then we might say that there is a way of becoming good at something just by repetition and practice. Many martial arts instructors will tell you this is how they train. Not everybody that comes into their school is gifted or good at, or even, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for another word. Not synchronized, but anyway. Some people are just not naturally, gifted with this talent. But through repetition, they become good, right? Bruce Lee used to say, and I didn't even write this down for the video, Bruce Lee used to say, I don't fear the man that practices 1,000 kicks. I fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times. So there's no doubt that even Bruce Lee thought you can get really good at something by just practice. And we're talking about mindful practice, not just doing something mindlessly 1,000 times a day, because you're going to be doing it wrong 1,000 times a day. We're talking about putting your mind to something and doing it right, doing it well, and just repetition, right? Now, I can argue, doing this video, and this is a Photo Philosophy Friday topic, let me know if you agree with this, I can argue that if Joe Schmo can take something that they want to do, like skateboarding, and have no clue how to do it, and practice it, sorry about that, my phone, I thought I had turned the volume down. Let me do that right now so this doesn't happen again, my apologies. Actually, I had turned the volume down. It was vibrating anyway. I can argue that a person can take up skateboarding and practice it for a year and become like the best in their class, right? And if they can do this, then take somebody who's gifted at this, who was born with that talent, right? Who went to the park the first time and impressed everybody. Imagine if that person practices with that same level of intensity and awareness, right? And mindfulness. They're going to be even better. But that's not the discussion here, right? That's obviously true. If somebody who's already gifted at something takes it that serious as well, then they're going to be even better, right? And maybe these are the godlike people that we see in sports that nobody else can touch, right? Maybe these are the people that are born with this amazing talent, and they don't lay back and say, well, I've got it already, so everybody else kind of catches up through practice and kind of plays on their level. That happens a lot, I'm sure. People that are born with a talent and then just kind of keep it there. But there are those few that are born with that talent and then just practice till their fingers bleed or their feet bleed or whatever, right? And these are the godlike, sports-like people and athletes and artists that we just look at and go, wow, right? But that's not the point of this topic, right, of this video. The point of this video is, can we learn something and do it really well just by repetition? Or do we have to be born with this skill? Well, so here's the thing. This is a Photo Philosophy Friday topic and channel for now, right, where we're not doing product reviews. So we have no answers, right? The whole point here is to raise questions so that you can sit, have a cup of tea or beer or whatever you want to drink later, coffee. And if you live in New York, it's coffee. And you can enjoy this thought and just kind of throw it around and say, what have I done with my life where I've had to become good at something? And was I able to do it through repetition, or was I kind of born with it? I asked myself about photography because I never took a photography class. And from a very early age, I kind of got it, right? I was shooting film and I got it. I understood. But I was always into math and engineering, and I loved optics, right? And I went into electrical engineering, and I did graduate studies in electrical engineering with a lot of fiber optic studies. So I was always intrigued by glass and, how light moves through glass. And I understood the electronics in the camera at a very early age, but more than anything, I understood how light worked, and I was always intrigued. I was always intrigued in science, with this stuff. So I don't know if it was that I kind of had the photography thing in me already and I just took off with it, but I also carried a camera with me from the age of 18 to my early 20s. It was always around my shoulder, and even though it was film, I couldn't shoot a lot because it was expensive. I shot and I documented what I did and what I saw. Well, I saw was the film, so I didn't have to document that, right? I documented my aperture and my shutter speed, and if I made any changes to anything. And, there was a lot of practice there too. So I don't really know for myself. I don't know if you are really good at something, if you can tell for yourself if it was mostly practice or you were kind of born with it. Some people tell me they were born with the ability to draw. They could outdraw any of their friends and teachers at a very young age, right? Let me know in the comments if you think you have a talent or if you think you developed your talent. So I wrote a few things down here, right? Einstein used to say genius is 1% talent and 99% hard work. So he clearly believed that hard work was going to get you to where you needed to be. Now the irony is that this quote is coming from a man who was a natural born genius. And he's telling us all that we can actually get there with hard work. So I don't know if he was just being nice or he actually believed this. Paco de Lucia, if you ever had the pleasure of seeing him play, I saw him play a couple of times in my life, no longer with us. Paco de Lucia was a famous guitarist that was asked one time at an interview, is playing the guitar difficult? And he said, no, playing the guitar is easy. Mastering the guitar is difficult. And Andres Segovia, which was another guitarist, also passed away, classical guitarist. Paco de Lucia was more from the flamenco side in Spain. Andres Segovia was also from Spain, but he was more classical. He used to say, if I miss a day of practice, I can tell the next day I pick up my guitar when I hear myself that I didn't practice for a day. If I miss 2 days of practice, my audience can tell the difference. Imagine that. He used to practice 8 hours a day. He said guitar playing was his life. It paid for his life because that's how he earned a living. So he said, because it's my living as well as my passion, I treat it as a job. And even though I enjoy it very much, I get up in the morning, I take my shower, and I play for 8 hours. Yes, I stop for lunch and have lunch with my family, and then I continue playing. And he would treat it as a job. And he would play through the weekends because to him, it was that important. Now, we're going to talk about, Andres Segovia a little more in a second, but I'm just giving you some background here. What we're still trying to figure out is, are these people just hard workers or did they have a gift? In Paco de Lucia's case, the flamenco guitarist that said it was hard to master a guitar, but very easy to play it, his father started him playing the guitar at the age of 5 and had him practice 12-hour days many times and would pull him out of school to play because back then, it wasn't go to school and get a degree and get a job. It was find a trade that you can, make a living from. And his father played guitar. So he said, I'm going to train my kid better than I trained myself. And he's going to be a better guitar player. And Paco de Lucia made his life this way. And it was also a passion of his. Now, did it become a passion because he played it so much? Possibly, right? It sounds from looking at Paco de Lucia's case, he may have had some talent. But 12-hour days, a bunch of times, maybe 8 hours most of the time, starting at the age of 5. I would argue that most of that was probably practice. I might be completely wrong, right? Just from what I read and what I looked at, it looks like most of that may have been practice. Paco de Lucia himself said, I learned the guitar like a child learns to speak, right? And how do you learn to speak? It's repetition and being thrown into situations where you need to. So Einstein, on the other hand, Einstein taught himself algebra and Euclidean geometry over a summer at the age of 12, right? You might argue that he was just naturally gifted to some degree. He was said to have math levels years ahead of his peers. So it turned out to be a passion of his because it was something he was good at and he enjoyed, right, doing when he realized he was so good at it. And then he just took off with it and ran, right? He ran with it and became even better. He's one of those, like I talked earlier, godlike people because they're just naturally born with it and they do it all the time, right? So looking at Einstein's case, different from Paco de Lucia, it seems like, yes, of course, all that practice and that love for it helped, right? But it sounds like he may have been born with something that most of us are not born with. In his case, Einstein was probably slightly gifted to begin with. So you can say that the universe, God, whatever, chose mathematics and science for him. He didn't choose it. Now, Andres Segovia, the classical guitarist we spoke about, that used to practice 8 hours a day as a job, it's unclear, to me anyway, if it was mostly gift or mostly practice. I'm sure practice had a lot to do with it. But he started practicing the guitar early in life and gave his first concert at the age of 16, right? So maybe there was a little natural talent in there as well, but definitely the fact that he just practiced so hard from a young age and developed that discipline to do that from an early age his whole life, that I'm sure helped him a great deal. But we'll never be sure what level of genius and what level of hard work plays in any of these people's lives, right? As I can tell you, even for me, I should know myself better. I can't tell you how much of it plays in my photography, right? Or in my math. I was good at math, but I used to actually suck at math. I taught a friend of mine, Mike, which came from China. I taught him English while he taught me math because I was bad at math. And he used to give me these puzzles from a Chinese newspaper that he used to get every day. And because in New York City, you can buy newspapers from all over the world, depending on where you live. And back then, he used to get this Chinese newspaper and it had a math puzzle every day. He'd share it with me. And he was really bright at math for whatever reason. I don't know if it was gifted, probably a little bit, a lot of practice too in China. But he would know the answers, and if he didn't, he would work them out, and he would share them with me. Some went over my head, but I did this every day for months. And so you see how I just naturally became good at it, and looking at it like a puzzle helped me because it was fun. And that's what I did teaching my daughter math. When she used to come to me with those problems that were so hard for her to, and it was all arithmetic, right? I turned it around and I turned it into a game and a puzzle. And she started liking math, and now she's just naturally decent at math. I don't have to do anything or say anything. Anything she learns, she applies all those basic principles and treats it like a game, and she just really enjoys it. Comes to me and says, "Dad, can you give me another 10 problems? Kind of similar like this one that my teacher gave me? Because I did that one, but I want to practice." And I'll just write up 10 or 15 more problems, and then she'll come back and ask me for another 10. So it's wonderful that we can do that with kids, and we can do that with ourselves, right? We can take things, repeat, practice, and if we treat it like a game, then we end up liking it even better. So this being a photography channel, the whole point is to understand that when you pick this up, if you're feeling like you're struggling a little, you don't understand the concepts of light that well after watching videos or taking a class, if you don't understand ISO and aperture and shutter speed the way it was taught and everybody else seemed to get it and you didn't, don't let that bother you, okay? We've already seen if you do it enough times. So what does it mean to do it enough times? Well, you pick up your camera. What are you going to do enough times if you don't understand it? Well, I'm not talking about picking up the camera yet. If you do it enough times means if you keep educating yourself, right? If you keep watching videos, if you do that enough times, if you keep taking a couple of classes here and there, it's only a matter of time before it clicks. And you go, oh, that's what ISO is doing. And that's what aperture is doing. Now I get it when you move from one aperture number to another, how it, doubles the light or cuts my light in half. Oh, I get it now. And you can do that with ISO and you can do that with shutter speed. That's really important. And if you can just dedicate a little time, because not everything comes overnight, right? All things that are meant, all things that are important in life, like, a good relationship, right? A good home takes time to build. A good relationship, a good life, a good job. All of that takes time to build. A good skill like photography, painting, whatever it is, takes time to build. Don't rush it. Don't feel if you don't have it initially that it's not going to work for you, okay? Now, if you pick up this thing, you take a quick class, right? And you watch a few videos and you're like, I got this. I understand completely what they're doing. I get it. Well, good for you. Now you can just start practicing. At that point, you need to just start practicing, right? If you're one of the ones that don't get it that quick, put it in automatic and take pictures anyway. Focus on the things, no pun intended, focus on the things that you can do. Like focus on composition, right? Learn composition in photography, the rule of thirds, all these things, leading lines, right? Start playing with those concepts of color. study color, right? Complementary colors, opposite colors, adjacent colors, and set up little things at home where you can take pictures of using these colors and see how they look, if it matches, if it flows, right? Those things you can do while the camera's in automatic, while you're still understanding shutter speed, ISO, everything else, right? Aperture. And I promise you that you're going to get it, okay? Just be patient. So we conclude this video by saying each of these people we looked at is really a case-by-case study, right? And all of us in life are a case-by-case study. One thing I can tell you for sure is what we just talked about. If you put enough time and effort into it and awareness, mindfulness, you will understand it and you will excel. Guaranteed. We've seen it with athletes. We've seen it with artists. We've seen it with photographers. If anything, take my case. Yeah, I understood it early on, but most of it has been just thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. I've done over 100 weddings. If you just say 1,000 pictures per wedding, that's 100,000 pictures in weddings. Not to mention the sports stuff I've done, the fashion stuff I've done, my hobby stuff, my nudes, my landscapes, my smoke, water drops, flowers, all this stuff that I enjoy, right? I would easily say 200,000 pictures. So there are quotes out there by Henri Cartier-Bresson, which says, the first 10,000 pictures were my worst. Well, that's kind of what he's saying. You're going to have to get through 10,000 pictures before you start making any progress anyway, right? No matter how good or bad you are. So be patient, my friends. I love you all. Please like down below on your left. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this, down on your right. Share this with friends, and hopefully you stay healthy and happy. I will see you all in the next video. Ciao for now.